Today is April 3rd, 2018. It's a little after 9. This is the regular meeting of the Taos County Board of Commissioners. We welcome everyone in the audience for being here with us today. A nice, bright, hopefully not so windy afternoon this afternoon. That's what I asked you yesterday, for those of us that had to be out in it. I hereby call this meeting to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Chairman Pembroke.
Present.
Vice Chair Gagos.
Present.
Commissioner Romero.
Present.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Present.
Commissioner O'Donnell. Present.
If everyone would please stand. Commissioner O'Donnell, would you like to introduce your guest for the inspirational devotion?
Yes, today we have Pastor Phil Juarez from the Sangre de Cristo Lutheran Church.
Thank you.
So we pray in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Almighty and eternal God, this day bestow your grace on all citizens of our county and state. Bless all those in authority. May the glory be yours as business and enterprise transpire in this august chamber. Graciously regard those in this place who have been set in positions of authority, that they may be guided by your Spirit, be wise in counsel, firm in good resolution, and unwavering in duty. Blessed Lord God, move each of us to always remember your daily generosity and to do your will. Bless our land with honest industry, truthful education for our children, and an honorable way of life. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil course of action. May we who have come from diverse backgrounds and cultures be a united people. When times are prosperous, let our hearts be thankful. In troubled times, keep us from failing to trust in you. Grant these things this day for the sake of your Son, our resurrected Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Sheriff Holdriff, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could all just stay for a moment. Vice Chair Gallegos is not here with us today. He's on the phone. He lost his grandmother a couple of nights ago. She lived a very full life and brought a lot of good family to our community. And if we could honor her and her family with a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, Commissioners, the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Motion to approve.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the motion and a second to approve the agenda. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos.
Yes.
Chairman Pembroke.
Yes. Okay, item 6 is awards and recognitions. This is a really good part of our meeting here, especially on the first. Item A is a presentation awarding the Taos County Employee of the Month for March. This will be presented to Eliza Espinosa from Communications Specialist. She's a communications specialist, one with our E911. Presenting will be our E911 director, Mr. Dominic Martinez. Good morning, Dom.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cordova, Mr. Aliato. So I want to make a presentation today, and I have a little excerpt to read so you guys know one of the reasons why we are having this presentation today. On February 16th of this year, Eliza took a 911 call at 2:53 in the morning, so it was early morning hours. The caller stated that her mother's water had just broken. Eliza, using her emergency medical dispatch, which that's a software program that we purchased last year with the help of Joaquin and Mike Cordova, Joaquin Gonzalez and Mike Cordova. Using her emergency dispatch program and her skills, she helped the family deliver the baby. She made sure that the family understood each step as it was happening. During the call, she remained calm, reassuring to the caller, who was relaying on the steps to help deliver the baby. Approximately 5 minutes into the call, she helped deliver a baby girl, hence the pink balloons. She stayed on the call for 20 minutes, helping the family with the newborn and making sure the mom's okay. Her outstanding performance on this call shows how well the emergency medical dispatch protocols are working for Taos County and having helped make her a better dispatcher as well. She not only handled the entire call, but continued to dispatch our medics and update them as needed. And now we have a new member in Taos County, a little girl. And so now what we have to present to her is we have some flowers, balloons, and we also have a pin that was given to us by Mr. Cordova, and by it has a little headset on it that delivers a baby. So if I can get it open, and that's the reason why we're here today.
To see you open that?
I see me open this, yeah, sheesh.
Both are entertaining.
Honestly works. Your turn.
Lori, take those.
I'll do it for you.
Is it Johnson?
Our job isn't very easy, you know, when you kind of call for you never know what you're going to get, and expect the unexpected, and, you know, I'm glad and I'm grateful that I had him, because if not, I'd probably been freaking out, but, you know, I'm thankful that the little girl is safe and she was going okay. It was a great honor, you know, for that first part.
Just remember, it all starts with you guys. Where it all starts. Mr. Gonzalez.
I also want to recognize Liza for another incident that she handled very professionally, and without her help, the family was able to spend a little bit more time with their loved one. Eliza was able to perform CPR over the phone for one of our patients until we arrived on scene. We were able to get pulses back, and the patient was able to breathe on her own. Spent about a week at St. Vincent's, and the family finally decided to pull the tube for the patient, but because of Eliza, that patient was alive for another week with her doctor. So, good job.
With Eliza and balloons, or you guys can take a picture.
And just the one last little thing just to add, you know, Eliza's one of 15 of us now on dispatch, and all of our dispatchers do a really good job. We cover the entire county 24/7, and the programs and the software programs that we purchased with Joaquin and Mikey have really helped us out a lot. So, you know, I'm proud of everybody in dispatch, and I'll continue to bring them in front of you like this if possible. Thank you, everybody.
Can you get a picture of the phone with Mark on it? I'd raise it up. There we go. And then it's deep. Perfect timing. Sorry about that. Action shot. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got 4 weeks left in the
Yes.
Oh. Stay down there. Okay, next item is the presentation to certificates. Taos County was honored to not only have of our 3 main school systems, 2 have brought home gold from the state cheer competition. The ones in the orange and black for the 5th time in a row, and the ones in blue and white for the 2nd time in a row, and they're going to be getting up there as well. So we'll first start with our friends from the north, I would like to, we'll call you up, and these certificates read as follows. It's a certificate of achievement awarded to each one of them, congratulating them for winning first place at the 2018 New Mexico State Cheerleading Championship. This wouldn't be possible without the support of their coaches. Mr. Brandon Gonzalez, is he here?
He's down here.
Oh, he's not? Okay. I was going to ask him to come on up, but we do have the school board. Oh, and Kathy Gonzalez is here. And the school board president for Cuesta Schools, Mr. Daryl Ortega, is here in attendance too. Thank you, Daryl, for being here to support these young ladies. First one is Miss Rihanna Ortega. Next, Sierra Cisneros Puente. Ms. Brianna Tafoya. Marisa Romero. Ms. Rebecca Medina. Tiana Medina. Angelica Lovato. Daniela Lacombe. When I was in school a few years ago, there was only 6 rah-rahs in it. Miss Leah Martinez. Martina Mascareñas. Annalise Rivera. Crystal Vigil. On behalf of the Taos County Commissioners, we all wish to give you our congratulations and our little show of support for you, and good luck next year too.
Thank you.
And the Taos Tigers, as I said, the 5th year in a row, and they were also supported down there during the competition. Our dance team placed 4th for the 2nd or 3rd year in a row too, so Taos is really strong in both of these teams. I'd like to ask Ms. Lisa Valerio and Ms. Leanne Etzel. These guys work very hard. First one that's not here today is Angie Frescas. We'll make sure that she gets her certificate. Herman Martinez. Marisa Ortega. Mia Garcia Martinez. Ashley McMahons. Name, sorry. Lauren Montoya. Mariah Martinez. Haley Apalaca. Michaela Etzel. Adara Ferrer. Daniela Gallegos. Marika Gallegos.
Sorry, Jim, I had to yell a little bit. Hope you heard me on WhatsApp.
We wanted to hear you on the Cuesta Girls too there. Emily Espinosa. Monet Avalos. Angelica Frescas. Evan Valdez. Haley Hicks. Rebecca Martinez. Gabriela Perez. April Trujillo. Natalia Flores. Chantal Enriquez. Ileana Archuleta. Janea Trujillo. Samantha Salazar. Cheyenne Torres. Azelia Martinez. Carissa Gutierrez. Ladies, congratulations to Lisa, did you want to say something or coach? Did you want to?
That's all right. Yes, like Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda, item 7, the citizens' concern. This is the time where citizens in the audience wish to address the commission regarding an issue that's either on the agenda and you can't stay later, or just something you need to bring to our attention. And we really can't engage in conversation with you other than just maybe getting staff to follow up on something if there is a concern. I first would like to recognize Mr. Jim Pollard, who would like to introduce Mr. Patel, the guy that's going to bring pancakes to our lives here in Taos.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, I am Jim Pollard. I think you know me from my strong at heart efforts in the Town of Taos Planning Commission. But in the real world, I'm a general contractor, and I've been working on the IHOP now for the last 5 months. I'd like to introduce Mr. Manny Patel from Alamosa, who is the owner of the IHOP. And just let you know, we're going to have a soft opening on April the 17th and a grand opening on April the 19th. Mr. Patel.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and County Manager, my name is Manish Patel from Alamosa, Colorado originally, and I'm owner of IHOP here in Taos. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to come and invite you and your panel. I'd like to go over the brief, a few points. The Applebee's was first opened in late 2007 and remained open for approximately 5 years, closed in 2012. It remained vacant for 5 years until we began our remodel in November 2017. We have rescued a fine commercial building in the center of our South Side Business District and removed this location from the list of problem drug and homeless gathering points. We have employed more than 57 local contractors for the work and 6 specialty contractors from out of town during this remodel with Jim Pollard's help. We plan to open with a staff of 90 employees, eventually bringing that down to approximately 60 employees in 2 months. We'll be providing 30 full-time jobs and 30 part-time jobs, approximately. We have invested just over $1.5 million so far, and and based on the sales projection, we expect to contribute over $100,000 per year to the town in gross receipt taxes. It is important to note that IHOP is a family restaurant designed for local patrons, not just catering to tourists. Our hours will be from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. with summer hours probably extended to midnight. In addition to the officials from the Town of Taos, the Taos County Chamber of Commerce, and Taos Community First Responders, we'd like to invite the County Commissioner and County Administration to participate with us in our grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony to help us for this grand opening important ceremony for us on April 19th at 10 a.m. We'll be joined by my co-owners from Alamosa, together with the management team, as well various corporate officials from the equity team. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to our community.
So just to try and reiterate, we'd like very much for you to come help hold the scissors on April the 19th, 10 a.m. I think this is a big thing for Taos. As you all know, this is going to have a big economic impact. And thank you for your support.
Does anyone want to commit to being there, Commissioner?
I'm sorry, did you say the 18th or the 19th?
The 19th,
Is it
sorry,
ribbon cutting?
I spoke. 19th at 10 a.m.
It's a Thursday. I think the 20th, the cleanup day is on Friday. So I'm thinking.
And of course, there'll be a breakfast for you afterwards. You need more incentive. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else wishing to address the commission? Mr. Filkey, how are you today?
I'm doing fine.
We put you in the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Coming in this morning, I was listening to KOB, and topic near and dear to my heart. The city council in Albuquerque just decriminalized marijuana. This is what Gary Johnson was trying to do how many years ago? And they're just catching up. This is not the same as legalizing. They'll never give up that authority. But that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the commission? Hearing none, seeing none, again, thank you all for being here. Next item is item 8, our minutes. Item A is approval of the March 13th, 2018 regular meeting minutes. Commissioners?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the March 13th, 2018 regular meeting minutes. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Item B is approval of the March 22nd, 2018 regular meeting minutes. Motion to approve the March 22nd, 2018 regular meeting minutes. I need a second.
Second, Mr.
And a
Chairman.
second. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Abstain.
Vice Chair Gagos? Vice Chair Gagos? Chairman Bender?
Yes. Okay, next item 9 is presentation. Item A is a presentation from New Mexico Gas Company regarding the pipeline project by Mr. Tim Court, the manager of communications for the New Mexico Gas Company.
Good morning, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Town Manager. My name is Tom Dolby. I was here for the commission last summer at some point in time. And I have with me today Tim Court, who is our manager of communications. I also have a couple of the engineers who were involved on the project. If you have any questions about what transpired, as well as have Curtis Winter, who's also here from the company. He can answer some questions as well. So I thought what I would do, we were talking to Commissioner O'Donnell about another issue, and she suggested we come and update the commission on what happened, and I thought that was a great idea. So I'm here today to kind of update you on what happened. I know you have a good feel for what happened, but update you on the project, and then answer questions that you might have. So you're well familiar with this project. It began years ago, and we considered alternatives and so forth. Landed on the alternative that was the construction along the roadway there. Started the construction after talking to the river rafter group and so forth, tried to delay the construction. Started it in August and constructed through, we hoped to be done by November 17th. We did not make that date. Two primary reasons for that. One is we did initial borings along the path. We did 23 borings along the path, looking to see what the construction material would be like. Those borings came back with crushed rock and those kind of things that you would expect to see in a roadbed like this. Unfortunately, when we got in there, we found that there was a lot more uncompromised or unaffected rock. And so there was a lot of work that had to be done to remove rock, and that was the primary reason for the delay. The other reason for part of the delay was the traffic control conditions that we were engaged in required those cement barriers. We didn't know that was going to be a requirement going in, so it took us longer on the road construction and in the road control, the traffic control. So that's the reasons for the delays. As you know, we stopped constructing over the Thanksgiving holidays after the 17th of November, and then we reopened the road for the week of Christmas to accommodate Christmas traffic and so forth. Picked up construction again the first week of January and constructed nonstop after that. The construction itself on the road was essentially completed around the 27th or 6th of February. And so the road was essentially reopened at that point in time. What was left to do after that was to tie in the new pipe, which is a new 12-inch pipe as opposed to the old 8-inch pipe, tie that in. And we did that with that LNG configuration that you probably saw in the trucks and so forth. So we used LNG to tie this pipe in. We did that on March 15th. So as of March 15th, the pipe is up. It's supplying gas to Taos. There are still a couple of crews cleaning up various spots along there, but the pipe is up and running. The tie-in was very successful. It's one of the first times we've done something like that where we brought in those number of LNG trucks and used LNG to supply Taos for that tie-in period of time. And then we used CNG to attach to all the homes further down so that no customer lost any gas at any point in time during any of this construction. And we're pretty proud of that we were able to do this and change out 6 miles of an 8-inch pipe for 6 miles of 12-inch pipe in a pretty difficult construction area and do it relatively successful. I realized it was slower than we wanted, but we did the very best we could. Safety was a critical concern, and I know it was a concern of the commission when we came and saw you last summer. We focused on that a lot. We're happy to announce that nobody in the construction crew was injured at all during the construction. There were a few traffic accidents involved in the construction area and so forth, and that will happen. But the construction crew itself, there was no injuries to anybody there. There's an interesting story about the rock slides on the hill. So I know that was a concern of yours, Commissioner. So we hired crews to sit there and watch the hillside the whole time. And they were watching it, and there's actually an incident where there was a group of bighorn sheep that were walking across up above the construction crew. They saw these 8 sheep going across it there. They actually stopped the construction while these sheep walked along it there. And the sheep actually did cause a little landslide that came down, got close to the crews, but the crews were stopped at that point in time. So those watching the hillside was actually a pretty effective way to monitor that. Where do we go from here? The intention this summer is to go out and remove the above ground old pipe that's on the west side of the river. Take that out. We're going to give that pipe away to some of the landowners around there. But we're going to take that out and abandon in place the stuff that's underground in there. So we're trying to do that in such a way that we do as little damage at all to that side of the hill. And so we will cut out the above ground stuff, and then we'll abandon in place the underground stuff. And so hoping not to do any further damage to that hillside. We're working with the DOT now on a few other remaining issues with regard to guardrails and the side of the road and those kind of things. So we're working with the DOT on that. We want to express our thanks to the state police and to the county sheriff and so forth for the work that they did in assisting us in the traffic control. All in all, the traffic control pattern that we put in place we think was pretty successful. The average wait we think was less than 10 minutes. There were a couple of instances where it got more than that, but by and large, the average wait was relatively reasonable for a project such as this. So that's kind of the summary of where we are and how we got there. I'll entertain any questions that you might have.
One thing that was entertaining while we were down there waiting is watching the eagle that hung out in the mornings by the county line that was watching everybody. There were so many eagle pictures that showed up on Facebook because while people were sitting there, they were getting nice. And I mean, it's a treasure that we have in that with the bighorn and all that.
I saw some of those pictures yesterday.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And I really appreciate the constant updates that we were provided. I know I wasn't a fan of the project. I'm glad it's over with, and I'm just glad that no one got hurt.
Hey, Commissioner, I skipped over my note there about the communication effort. Now, we really did do a very extensive communication effort before, during, and after. During the LNG transfer, we communicated to all the people that might be affected by that. So we really focused, and Tim gets a lot of credit for that communication.
Yeah, that day he was a big help because we had a concern and was supportive of us, and he got back to me right away, and I passed that information on to those people, and it went real well. It made them relax.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. Thank you very much.
We still have nightmares from what happened years ago.
Yes, yes. We tried to
Commissioner Romero.
Mr. Chairman, as you all know, this was all in my district, but more than that, I was really pleased to see the amount of work and the quality of work that was done. And I was very impressed, and I remain very impressed. But I did have a couple of questions with regards to the descansos, the memorials that were placed. Have they all been replaced or put back? And the other question is with regards to the highway surface. Is that going to be looked at in the near future and replaced to some extent?
I'll let Peter speak here in a second. Right now, where we are, we're meeting with the Department of Transportation on that. My understanding is the DOT is satisfied with the surface. We did not really affect the surface of the road. There was one area where we got close, and you'll see there's a patch down there. We met with the Department of Transportation about that patch. The surface, we were able to stay off of the road. So as far as I understand, there's not going to be any further work on the surface of the road. We're working with them on the guardrails and the other things, but, and then Peter, I'm not aware of the issue on yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Peter Ford.
Yeah, we did document all of those before we came in. They were all photographed, GPS, and to ensure that if there was any issues with them, that they could be replaced. For the most part on the project, we tried to make sure that they stayed there and protected them. And right now we're going through the right-of-way cleanup portion of the activity. We're pretty much done with that. And so I believe everything has been checked to make sure that it is back the way it was before we started.
I see. So has the highway department communicated at all as to what they intend to do to possibly resurface the road? At some point?
And we've been working very closely with them throughout the entire project. I can't speak to what their plans are going forward. I'd have to refer you back to them. We've been working with them to try to make sure that everything is done in the appropriate manner, which the things that we touched and we affected.
Okay, then there are some areas where there are some arroyos or maybe culverts. They're pretty steep. Are those going to be
Those drains?
covered with guardrailing? Yeah, those drains.
Again, I can't quite speak for what UNM-Taos' future plans are. We are, like I said, working with them very closely to make sure that those things get put back to the state which they require. I understand there are some concerns there, but again, I'd have to let DOT speak to that.
Because now that they were cleaned out, if we already had a major snowstorm, sometimes many people, the traffic will slow down, some will move to the side. And if it's in the middle of a snowstorm and they don't see those drains and the depth of them now, they could easily fall into the...
All of those, our understanding is that most of those culverts and those little ditches, they were there historically.
Right.
Some of them were covered by weeds, so when they look, they're more obvious now than they were because they're now exposed and redug and so forth. But we're talking to DOT about what they want to do about those things.
Overall, congratulations. Good job. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and presenting. I would like to hear more from the engineering and Crossfire as far as amount of crews, amount of trucks, maybe some local hires for the flagging. And then I know you were a couple months behind schedule. I'm just curious you're going to waive those penalties. So if there could be someone who could maybe speak to that. And also, I'd like to hear, I think it's important people know that there were 2 pipelines that crossed under the river, and now they are no longer functioning. I think that's important. Maybe you can talk about those things too. Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. So that this was a major undertaking for pipeline and capital improvement that we were working on. Crossfire was the main contractor that we had out there. They had, and it depends on what work's going on, but at one point, I believe we were up to 72 construction personnel. Now, those are the people who are actually doing the construction, the welding, digging, clean up the right-of-way, replacing right-of-way, those type of activities. We also had, we had several safety personnel involved. We've already talked a little bit about the people who are monitoring the rocks. We have X-ray. Every one of our welds was X-rayed to ensure that we have good mechanical health with the pipeline. So we had X-ray crews out there. We had survey crews as well. And then we also were doing density tests and proctor tests on the soils to make sure that, as we put it all back together, that would hold. And of course, we continue to stay there and not adversely affect the highway. Along with that, we have numerous gas crews who are also available. We had an inspection crew of 7. So all construction activities that were being done out there, we also have inspectors to ensure that all of that stuff is done to the appropriate standards as they were affected. So all total, you ended up with just under 100. Depending on the day, that wasn't true of every day. I did not memorize the equipment count. I do know we were running 3 of the large tracos that had the rock chippers in front of them. We didn't expect to have to be in there chipping rock like we ended up doing, and so we had a lot of work there. We were running 13 trucks back and forth carrying the rock over to the BLM quarry site. We still have some, hydrostatic water. We'll be running some water trucks to take that stuff out up to the Bloomfield area. With that, I believe we're planning on 8 trucks for that. And then, of course, with all those, you have the welding rigs and all the pickups and vehicles along with that, which all of that, was presenting challenges relative to the workspace that we had. So we had to ferry people in. I'm sure driving through the area, you probably saw that we had a fairly large yard down in Rinconada that we were storing the vehicles and stuff like that, and then ferrying people into the work site.
Could you spell your name and your title, please? Yeah.
Peter Ford?
Ford?
Yeah, F-O-R-D.
And you are?
I'm the manager of pipeline engineering and station design. It's my team that tends to take on these large capital investment projects.
He was the lead engineer on the project and was on site every day, essentially.
And about the pipes under the river, they'll stay there?
I'm sorry, I neglected that. Yes, we did, previously, the original alignment of the pipeline did cross the river in 2 locations. At the beginning of where our work site started, we crossed there and then over towards the town of Pilar. Those have both been retired. They've been cut and capped, and we are no longer transporting gas across the river in either one of those locations. We're able to stay on the east side of the river the entire way, and so that was another nice benefit of the alignment that we went up.
When will that one area in Pilar that we toured be taken, dismantled? What's it called?
Water receiver station. It's actually removed.
Yeah, as we went by this morning, that the above ground facilities had already been removed. Looks like there'll probably be some cleanup on the right-of-way stuff that will be completed there, seeding, stuff like that, but the above ground equipment was already gone.
It's been moved across onto the other side of the road, so yes, it's coming.
Thank you.
And with regard to liquidated damages, we're in discussions right now with Crossfire, and I'm not going to negotiate that today. So we're in conversations with Crossfire about that issue.
I kind of feel sorry for them that they were a couple of months behind based on some of the unforeseen circumstances. I don't know, you won't tell me, but I hope you didn't lose a lot of money on this project.
It came in a little bit above budget, but not out of line for a delay like this and for a project like this. So,
Mr. Chairman, one last question. So with regards to New Mexico Gas Company, what's in the future? You have, right now you have, what is it, an existing 6-inch that comes in from Rio Arriba into a 12-inch line? Is that the way it is? Or what future projects will be?
As far as this line is concerned, we have nothing planned with regard to the Taos main line at the present time. It's an 8-inch up to. It's an 8-inch up, and then it's a 12-inch at this point in time. And I guess somewhere down the road, when we do something with the rest of that pipe, that would become 12-inch as well. But there's no plans at the present time to do any further construction north or south of that line. We took advantage of having to move this pipe over to make it a 12-inch for the future, but there's no plans to do any more. The 8-inch that we have now is very sufficient for the needs in Taos. We just took advantage of the situation to expand that pipe around.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Well, that's what I didn't understand. When you go from an 8-inch to a 12-inch, you increase capacity and then you go back to another 12-inch. I mean, when you say future, what does that mean?
So, from the perspective of we're love to see growth in all aspects, in all parts of the state. Really, when we're looking at the design of this pipeline, an 8-inch would have been sufficient and will continue to be sufficient for quite some time. Of course, that's all about what growth projections do you use for the area. When we're looking at the challenges for the construction, we came to the decision on, should we go to a 10 or even a 12-inch? Go upsize through this section so that we can increase the amount of time before we have to go back in there to do any further build out. Currently, we don't have any plans from the engineering perspective on either both the south or north ends of the current construction site. As growth or time needs, we would have to come back and readdress that.
So
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I just want to thank New Mexico Gas and Mr. Eddie Hill, our planning director, for working so closely together on the tie-in. Mr. V. Hill kind of coordinated all of our folks, OEM, sheriff, fire chief, and I think it went pretty well because of the coordination. We asked a lot of questions, and New Mexico Gas complied with every request we had, and I want to thank them for that. I think it went off as well as it possibly could have, and our biggest concern at the county was safety for our residents, and we appreciate that you echoed that same concern, so thank you.
I just hope the contractor filed his GRT in Taos County. We'll be checking out that.
Well, back to that, your office was actually in Rio Riva, wasn't it? Down at the Rinconada staging site. Which office did you use to file GRTs?
It's gonna be, I think you just...
I don't know. I'll have to check.
Would you check that for us?
I'll check. I'll get back to you on that.
It's too bad we could have asked you to have an office in Taos.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I believe it, GRT should have been paid where the actual construction was occurring, so we'll look into that, and I'm sure if it needs to happen, we can always work on
I haven't brought up that question, so we'll have to look into that.
We like our GRT.
Yeah, that's, yes.
All right, Commissioners, anything else?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm glad it was a very safe project. I enjoyed seeing the spotters there. It turned out, hopefully it stays this way.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congrats. Okay. Next item on the agenda, Commissioners, is the consent agenda. I will read the items listed in the consent agenda, and if you wish to pull one, it would be the next order of business before we continue with the regular agenda. Item A is approval of the DFA resolution number 22, 2017-18 fiscal year resolution requesting to adjust 2018 fiscal year final budget to establish the budget for New Mexico State Library grant awarded for the 2016 General Obligation Bond and Tapa Community Center Library. Item B is approval of DFA resolution number 23 for 2017-18 fiscal year resolution requesting to adjust the 2018 fiscal year final budget to establish the budget for Taos County's in-kind contribution for construction costs of the Taos Senior Center and to transfer permanent cash from the general fund to capital. Item C is approval of a budget adjustment for the sheriff, account 0101-0500. Item D is approval of budget adjustment for treasurer's office, 0101-0300. Item E is approval of budget adjustment for New Mexico Aging and Long-Term Grant, 2381-2304. Item F is approval of the budget adjustment for the Planning Department, 0101-1310. Item G is approval of budget adjustment for San Cristobal Fire District, 0222-1701. Item H is approval of the budget adjustment for Facilities Management, 0101-1090. Item I is request for out-of-state travel for actual reimbursement for Mr. Richard Sanchez, Animal Control Officer, and Joseph Fernandez to attend the National Animal Control and Humane Officer Academy in Longmont, Colorado from June 11, 2018 to June 15, 2018. Item J is request for approval of Taos Fuels Interagency Restoration Crew T-Fire Charter Training Program. Item K is resolution number 2018-19, a resolution which approves the Planning Commission bylaws. Item L is resolution number 2018-18, a resolution approving the Board of Adjustment bylaws. And finally, item M, approval of grant agreement award between New Mexico Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department in Taos County for the purchase of personal protection equipment or firefighting equipment for Latir Fire Department. Commissioners, I've read the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remove I for discussion.
Item I will be considered following the remaining vote by Commissioner Blanco.
Was that in the form of a motion?
No.
To approve the rest of
Well, we pull first and then are you moving to approve the remaining items?
Yes.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
O'Donnell.
I'd like to pull K and L.
Okay, item K and L. So we have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item I, K, and L. Anything else, Commissioner?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bamber?
Yes, thank you. Okay, item I is a request for out-of-state travel and actual reimbursement for Richard Sanchez, Animal Control Officer, and Joseph Fernandez to attend the National Animal Control and Humane Officer Academy in Longmont, Colorado. If there's any questions, our Sheriff, Jerry Obrecht, is present at the meeting. Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Sheriff, for investing part of your budget into this very important department. I took a look at the curriculum, and it looks like there are many items that will be relevant to Taos County, and I am hopeful that this training will result in more enforcement of our animal control ordinance. As you know, there are many cases throughout the county, many instances of puppies breeding, dogs that are not contained, various violations of our ordinance. I know that it's difficult for the officers when they go out to these calls to collect the evidence, but if your department would work with some of our activists in the community, I believe that you would be able to obtain witnesses and sufficient evidence to prosecute some of these situations. We are never, ever going to get control of this incredibly long-standing problem in Taos County without a strong enforcement of our ordinance. Obviously, spay-neuter is another issue. It's not a silver bullet, but we do need to enforce the ordinance. And again, thank you for making this investment.
Sheriff?
Prepared to answer whatever questions you have about this training.
The question is just
Not to be,
that this training will result in a more enforcement of some of these situations that we're all aware of.
We do have our trials and tribulations and struggles. Yesterday, one of my only two animal control officers is injured, so I'm down to just one to patrol the county of 2,205 square miles. We'll do the best we can. We do work with the activists, but there's many struggles with that as well. If you want to have a sidebar, I'm more than happy to do that at any time. I do want to say one thing about this. One tuition is paid through a grant. It won't cost us anything for the tuition. The other one we do have to absorb, and then of course the travel expenses for eating and so forth. And we will continue to respond to calls, and we'll continue to do our best. Those people within our community that do report to dispatch their concerns, problem areas, I am very grateful and appreciative of that. To those that want to remain anonymous and not get involved with what they've seen, which we see a lot of, I have to respect them for that, for not wanting to cause hardships in their neighborhood or with their neighbors. It's a difficult line for people to walk. We have to respect that, Commissioner.
Yes, absolutely. But I believe there are witnesses who would be willing to come forward. I also understand you have limited resources. If this is an issue you'd like to focus on and you want to come back to this board to see if we can help, I would certainly support that in the same way that we have supported your efforts towards spay neutering. And I do appreciate the plan that you have in place. I think it's a good one to spend that 25 grand. But I hope that resources are not the limiting factor here.
Well, you hope they're not, but sir, with all respect, they absolutely are. Two animal control officers cover this entire county. We've talked about it and heard it before. It's nothing. It's the same with patrol districts for the deputies and so forth for criminal-related calls. So I appreciate it. I do think that this is this national certification in academy will much better prepare them for court testimonies as well as the safety and investigations. So I'm excited for them to get together this. Unfortunately, it doesn't come to New Mexico.
And Longmont's too far, not too
It's
far away.
it's not terrible.
I agree with you. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the commission. Sheriff, will this injury you spoke of prevent him from going to the training? How long do you expect him to be out?
Don't know that yet. But we're moving forward with this. It's not till June, so hopefully we'll be back in the saddle and ready to go.
And I also did want to make some comments. Sheriff, if there's any way at some point you could bring back the number of dogs that you bring in, the number of citations, the number of those upon actual conviction, and some spay-neuter numbers, how many dogs you've spayed since we've given you that, the 25,000. You know, I'm a great one for wanting to see numbers, and if there's any way you're able to do that, give us dog numbers, I would really appreciate that at a future meeting. And then, are you able to use tranquilizer guns?
Not currently.
And so, will you have any training on tranquilizer guns?
Yes, Richard has training on that. We don't currently utilize them. In order for that to happen, several other steps, including DEA licensing, would have to occur for us to have the romping and the euthanasia, those type of drugs. We don't utilize that.
I'm just talking about like when you tranquilize a wild dog, that you put in your
Feral
vehicle.
dogs, cats, and so forth. No, I mean, it's not an instant drop. And it's dangerous to use those. We have. Not opposed to
I
learning.
mean, do you have a gun and tranquilizers or
We do
not?
not have anything that's current for doing that, no, never have.
Okay, because I'll be calling dispatch about 7 feral dogs running loose in my district, including probably 2 females that have puppies now. And these dogs are hard to catch, so we need a solution to get these feral dogs. They're roaming free, they're attacking cattle,
That is how we get the
people.
referrals, and that's how my animal control.
Well, okay, I hope,
Absolutely.
hope so.
Getting back to the agenda item is to approve the travel for the 2 animal control officers. So, do I hear a motion? Commissioner Blakeman?
Yes, Chairman.
Second. Motion is second to approve the request for out-of-state travel and actual reimbursement for Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Fernandez to attend the National Animal Control and Humane Officer Academy in Longmont, Colorado from June 11th to the 15th, 2018.
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. If this one animal control guy is unable to make it because of his injury, what do we do, Mr. Manager? Will someone else go in his place, or we lose that conference money, or what would happen?
2 months away.
It's June, we don't know what's going to happen there. Hopefully we'll have the approval just in case.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner O'Donnell, we'll have to look into that. If there's an opportunity for a refund, we'll certainly take it. As the sheriff mentioned, one of these is a scholarship anyway for our animal enforcement officers. I don't know if there would be anyone else next in line to go because you don't specify animal control. So we'll look into that if that's the case at the time of the training.
Give me the funding for another position, and I would have somebody send.
So the agenda item is approval of this training. We're not, well, please state the agenda item. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gallegos?
Yes.
Chairman Dando?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item K is resolution 2018-19, a resolution approving the planning commission bylaws. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes, just clarification on the signatures. Do we have new planning members on the signature I was looking at, of those who signed and those who didn't?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cordova, Mr. Lafayette. Commissioner O'Donnell, the planning commission members are the exact same members that were appointed for the previous calendar year, 2017. all 5 submitted letters of interest. No one aside from the existing planning commission from the general public submitted any types of letters of interest.
I guess I'm confused because I saw 2 names crossed out on this document.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, at this meeting, we had 2 of the Board of Adjustment members sit in as alternates to the Planning Commission. That's why we had 2 members crossed out, and they were penned in as Alex Avita and David Henry, who sat in as alternates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then I move that we approve resolution number 28-19.
2018-19?
Yes.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2018-19, approving the planning commission bylaws. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bamber?
Yes. Item L is resolution 2018-18, a resolution approving Board of Adjustment bylaws. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the same question to Mr. Vihil. The signatures indicate only 3 Board of Adjustment. Are we down to 3 currently? If we could see those signatures.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner O'Donnell, when I came before you at the first meeting in January, at that time, we only had 3 individuals who would express interest in sitting on the Board of Adjustment. We advised you at that time that District 2 and District 3 were still lacking appointments for individuals to be appointed to the Board of Adjustment, which is still the case. And I believe that both Commissioner Romero and Commissioner Gallegos are aggressively looking for somebody to sit in that capacity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would move that we approve resolution number 2018-18.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2018-18, approving the Board of Adjustment bylaws. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bamber?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Vihil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item on the agenda is item 11, Department Matters. This will be an update of the 2018 CDBG application process. It's also Lori Montoya's grandmother that passed, as we earlier had the moment for. So in her absence, Mr. Leandro Cordova will be giving us this update. Mr. Cordova.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm going to do my best to give you an update on the CDBG process as it's kind of played out over the last few months. There were 3 public hearings held. The first one was in November 22nd of 2017, and then we had 2 meetings in March, March 15th and March 22nd. Citizens' participation was pretty light. The meeting of the 22nd was the only meeting that had any citizen participation. Ms. Antonia Cardenas of the El Prado Community Center is interested in a remodel and rehab for the community center to include a music room, literacy room, kitchen, gathering room, and arts room. They currently do not have a shovel-ready project, but they do think that the $750,000 opportunity would fulfill the amount for their project. So she has a plan to come before the commission, present her thoughts and ideas at a future meeting. I do believe Commissioner Blankenhorn also has some ideas for that building, or has been in discussion with the residents of El Prado. Other than that, we did get confirmation from DFA that the Historic County Courthouse project could meet the methodology for the criteria for methodology. So that would be specific to the ADA concerns over there, and so that is still an option for the county to pursue. That project is shovel ready and would be able to qualify pretty well with the point system that we are required to follow by CDBG standards. So that's a brief update. There's a very soon meeting coming up. We'll probably ask for a formal adoption of a specific project for the commission to choose to go forward on and submit our application. So I stand for any questions that I will do my best to answer.
Okay. Thank you. So that process will continue at a timetable.
Yes, we do have.
Share that by email to each of the commissioners.
Yes, we'll definitely get you. We have a time frame, time calendar for the next few steps, and so that will get out to the commission so you guys can see what's coming up. but the application deadline itself is June 22nd. It's an early application deadline, which we receive extra points for. So we're shooting for that as our ultimate deadline, so we get the extra points. We also received extra points for having a third public hearing. That wasn't required, but we did do the third public hearing for that reason to get the extra points. And that's all I have on this.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 12, resolutions and ordinance. Item A is approval of resolution 2018-17. This is a resolution appointing members to the Taos County Lodgers Tax Advisory Board to be presented by our Deputy Clerk, Ms. Fowler.
Good morning, Commissioners. So I'm here to present the board members for the Lodgers Tax. It's going to be coming up here probably first part of May. So it's the same board members as before: John Paul Bradley for the lodging industry, Sidney Nichols, lodging industry, Alvino Martinez for the tourist, Deborah Sandoval for the tourist, and Jeanette Raya for the county resident. I spoke with all of them. They are willing to serve. Deborah said she's willing to serve, but if there's anybody else, she'd be willing to step down.
Commissioners?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve.
With discussion?
Okay, let me finish the motion and I'll go to you, Vice Chair. Approval of resolution 2018-17, resolution appointing members of the Taos County Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. Discussion, Vice Chair Gallegos.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, is the board consisting, Ms. Montoya, is the board consisting of 3 members or 5?
5.
5? I'd like to nominate an individual. Her name is Lindsay Mapes. She's done a lot of tourism and marketing in the Taos area, owns a cycle shop, a cycle touring business, and works a lot with northern New Mexico's smaller communities. And I think it would should be a benefit to us to give light as to what's more going on up here in the north.
Okay, that's fine. I will put her on the list, and if you could get me her contact information, I'll get in contact with her and let her know what it all involves.
Thank you.
So in the motion approving this, and we've added a name, will you just use that, and if it changes, you'll bring an amended resolution back to us? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gallegos?
Yes.
Chairman Bamber?
Yes. Thank you, Donna. Item 13, contracts, agreements, MOUs, and bids. First item is approval of award of RFP 2018-06 Medical and Social Outreach Services for Taos County. Ms. Elsa Hill will be presenting as our Chief Procurement Officer. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commission. Before you look in the packet is a staff recommendation. We received 11 responses to RFP 2018-06 for medical and social outreach. After reviewing with the evaluation committee, they deemed that it was necessary to have interviews with each entity, so we did conduct interviews within a 2-day span. Based on review and interviews conducted for this RFP, staff recommends to award RFP 2018-06 for medical and social outreach services to Community Against Violence, CAV, Holy Cross Medical Center for Cancer Services, Inside Out, Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, Taos School Community Health, Taos Coalition to End Homelessness, Las Cumbres Community Services, Presbyterian Medical Services, Compostela Community and Family Cultural Institute, Mas Comunidad, is all subject to negotiations of a mutually agreeable contract respectfully.
And Inside Out as well?
Yes.
Okay.
What I do ask, just to put on record, that I asked Commissioner Blankenhorn to abstain from voting due to he was listed as a board member for one of those entities.
Okay. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I so move that we approve approval of RFP 2018-06 Medical and Social Outreach services for Taos County to the named awardees, depending on a mutually negotiated contract.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second to approve the award of RFP 2018-06 as stated by Commissioner Romero. Further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes, I will, of course, recuse myself, thank you, because of my affiliation.
Thank you. Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bamber?
Yes. Mr. Corliss.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I just want to thank Elsa, Tammy, and Andrea for their hard work on this. This is our third year, I believe, of doing this. It's certainly coming along, and we are putting more money out into the community in a thoughtful way. It has taken a few years to create this pipeline, but it seems very like it's working really well, and the entities that were chosen are already providing great services in our community. What they're asking for from the county is a supplement to the work they're already done. And I just want to mention that all of these entities have earned the money that will be given to them from the county. It's not handouts. They certainly have gone through the process, and they have a great plan to put that money thoughtfully into the community. So I want to thank staff for their hard work.
If I could add to that, Tammy, possibly, because I know a lot of these provide services that our courts could use, maybe you can get a list of this to the courts and have, there's various things that the judges have been looking for, services that this could tie into some of these programs. So if you could get a list out to magistrate and municipal court, it would be helpful to use these programs.
Most definitely, this is the contract, sir.
Perfect. Negotiated. Okay. Thank you. So we voted on that. Thank you, Commissioners. Item B is approval of ITB 2018-5 for the Los Cordolas Bridge Rehabilitation Bridge number 8672 to Silva's Excavation. This will also be presented by our Chief Procurement Officer, Ms. Alcalde.
Chairman, Commission, before you is a packet with staff recommendation. We received only one response for this publication of ITB 2018-05 for the Los Cordolas Bridge Rehabilitation Project. Based on the lowest price and also on discussion with the engineer and their recommendation, staff recommends to award ITB 2018-05 for the Los Cordolas Bridge Rehabilitation Project to Silva's Excavation respectfully.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Romero.
what is the timeline for this project?
I'll defer this to you, Mr. Griffin.
We got an email yesterday afternoon, and I'm a little bit concerned about the timeline.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the Commission. What our timeline is we'd like to, in the next 2 weeks, negotiate the contract with Silva's Excavation and have that on the April 17th agenda for approval, after which we'll give Silva's Excavation a notice to proceed, so that way they can start ordering the materials. They'll begin to mobilize in the month of May. After Memorial Day weekend, we've told the contractor that he needs to begin dismantling the old bridge and construction of the new bridge. So the month of April, we'll also begin our notification process. We've already talked to Mr. Fullendorf about getting out the notice that the road will be closed and getting out the alternate routes. But our goal is to finish and reopen the road the week before school starts.
Okay, so that's in August, so it's about 120 days more or less?
More or less.
Just want to make sure that there's ample communication with the residents and of course that the roads that they can use, which will be, I think, Tusas, Cuchillas, Golf Course, Armory Road, C110. And of course, that's been paved, but that the others remain in very good condition, that they're maintained as well as possible, because that's going to create a little bit of a headache, I would imagine, for the residents.
And Mr. Pacheco and Mr. Medina do plan on being there daily. At least one of them will be there daily on site with the contractor. The contractor also, I guess I can say, since we approved the bid, they're about to approve the bid. One of his local subs is Alex Abeta, who's also going to provide inspection service for him as well.
And so the other concern that I have is that state police, I would imagine our sheriff as well, when there are emergencies north of town, they use this road to get to from one side of town to the other. Of course, ambulance and fire department. So we just want to make sure that Mr. Silva completes this project as soon as
Before the
possible.
school buses.
Yeah.
It's essential. I mean, that's...
As soon as possible. Don't let him take his time on it.
Because we will, and then we'll also get before the LEPC board at their next meeting to go over the project with them.
Thank you.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
So am I correct, it will take 3 months to build this bridge? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, because we're gonna also...
4 months.
About 4 months, but also there's a paving on the what's it called? Approaches. There's we're gonna pave a little section of the approaches, and we're gonna dismantle the existing bridge. The abutment wall is gonna remain in place, and then we're gonna construct, the certified welders are gonna weld the rebar in place over the bridge, and then we'll pour a lightweight concrete on top of the bridge. The concrete needs about 45 days to cure, and that's one of the longer time processes, is the curing of the lightweight concrete.
Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Manager could check in the future about these pre-made bridges where, so it doesn't disrupt traffic for 4 months. That seems like an awful long time, plus the cost. If we're going to be doing a lot of these bridges, I know there was one that pedestrian walkway that crumbled, but you could please research already made bridges that can just be put into place. My other question is, why can't you keep that bridge open and build the bridge to one side? What's the problem with that?
Chairman, members of the board. Commissioner O'Donnell, the whole process is taking up the decking because the decking is the problem. We've got to rip apart that whole deck to replace it. Plus the bearings underneath of the beam, the I-beams. Just cannot keep part of that bridge open.
It's not wide enough.
It's not wide enough, and the whole thing is gonna come down. If you tear apart one corner, it's just gonna continue from
But
there.
I'm talking about leaving it open while you build a new bridge to one side.
That's not the proposal, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, it's also involving the Army Corps of Engineers because of the waterway that's underneath us. So it would have been cost prohibitive to do a temporary bridge. We would have to go through them, that bridge would have had to meet their specs, so it wouldn't have really been affordable for us to take that route on this particular project. As mentioned, the bridge is too narrow to try and do anything with traffic on it. It would not be safe for the public as they were trying to do both. So we have been working on this project for about 2 years. We understand that it is going to be a long project. We tried to time it out as well as we could with the schools, understanding that it is a major bus route, but it is also, according to DOT, our most troubling bridge, our biggest challenge that we need to address probably 3 years ago. So we're really trying to make sure that this gets done thoughtfully and properly, but it isn't something that we want to rush or put anyone's safety at risk for.
And so my other question is, why couldn't your crews dismantle the bridge? Why? I mean, we could have saved some money removing the structure. I understand the whole thing is coming out and you're building from the ground up. So why in the future can't some of our crews do that work?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner O'Donnell, really it comes down to liability. That's not their primary function, and we would therefore be exposed to major liability if anything happened to them or to any of our public in that process. Going out the way we did, an invitation to bid, having a licensed contractor, we're still working with the contractor to make sure everything is that everyone's certified and that we meet all the requirements of a contract, but it really was for liability issues. We don't want to expose the county to something that if we make a mistake.
And Mr. Chairman, also, already as it is, you have to deal with the Army Corps of Engineers, and it creates a major problem and liability as well for the county if we did it ourselves.
And those were addressed when we met with Mr. Pena a little over 2 years ago, and we pretty much went with the engineer's recommendations.
And so we've already got all those permits from Army Corps, or how does that work?
We didn't need a permit from Army Corps. We did consult with them. We did the SHPO, we did get their concurrence, and then the wildlife biology group, we got their concurrence as well.
Thank you.
Also, just one more thing to mention, Mr. Chairman, the amount of time it would take for that deconstruction would mean none of our staff out on the other roads and servicing the other parts of the county that desperately need the maintenance.
Commissioners, I entertain a motion to approve ITB 2018-05 of this Cordovas Bridge rehabilitation.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second approving the aforementioned bid. Further discussion. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Okay, thank you, Elsa. Thank you, Ramon.
Mr. Chairman, just a little quick add-on here. Reporter for the Taos News, Cody, is here, and I'm glad he's here. I hope that, through your writings, you can help the county in informing the public, the residents of that area, about what's going to happen with that bridge fairly soon.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
Next item is the county manager's report to matters, and he's going to report on item number C, the Cerrito de la Hoya wilderness protection. That's Pop Mountain, pretty much. And we have Mr. Lou Romero that is here that may have some comments. So I wanted to recognize Mr. Romero for being here. Mr. Cordova.
Commissioner Roberta is in charge of this. To get this passed through the national.
You want to come forward, Mr. Romero?
I believe Mr. Romero is referencing Mrs. Roberta Salazar, who was actually the individual who reached out to the county and provided us a lot of the information associated with this. Essentially, when we did add this to your packet, some of the informational items that were provided by Ms. Salazar on the designation, and I will let her speak as well to elaborate, but essentially, as the chairman mentioned, it's Pot Creek area, Cerro de la Hoya. There is a lot of support from our local community, support from individuals like Mr. Romero, former Mayor Esther Gonzalez of Village of Cuesta. Garcia, I'm sorry. There's also support from Floyd Archuleta, land ranch owner, Marty Torres, an owner of also another rancher within the area. Town of Taos, Village of Cuesta, and Town of Red River are all being asked for support as well. And we also have support of this from the Taos Pueblo War Chief office. So I'll go ahead and stop for questions, or I'll invite Ms. Salazar to come up and elaborate further.
Any questions? Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for your hard work.
So, you're seeking wilderness protection there at Pot Mountain?
That's right, for the upper elevation of Pot Mountain.
Okay.
Pot Mountain sits in the heart of the National Monument. The National Monument has essentially two large cerros. Cerro de Utah, which is the tallest. It's right at 10,000 feet essentially. And then Cerro de la Hoya, which is 9,500 feet in elevation.
Cerrito Chiflo.
And Cerrito Chiflo is smaller, it's off to the east. So it's Cerro de la Hoya. right now. Some individuals have interest in seeing Cerro Chiflo, but the acreage would have to meet the requirements for wilderness. And one of the reasons that, well, first of all, there is a bill right now that passed the Senate and Congress. It's called Cerros, the Norte Conservation Act. And essentially, there's only one cerro in that bill right now. That's Cerro del Utah. New Mexico Game and Fish and the UNM Natural Heritage Center have done an analysis looking at prioritization of wildlife corridor areas for the state of New Mexico. One of their top priorities is this area on the Taos Plateau between the San Juan Mountains and the Sangre de Cristos. There's a lot of crossover between these two major mountain ranges by wildlife, terrestrial wildlife. Also, John Bailey, the manager of Rio Grande do Norte National Monument, states that there's 1,040 miles of open roads in the National Monument for open public access. Many of them are very primitive, but still they are open. So it's especially also important to note that Cerro de la Hoya is a really important wintering area for elk, and we get up to 2,000 elk on and around that mountain in winter. So it's really important that they have a place to escape, a haven away from motor vehicles. Cerro de la Hoya has been used traditionally for wood cutting and hunting. So there's many little fingerling roads around the base of the mountain. And we wanted to make sure we didn't impact anybody's open access. So we're looking at going above all those roads. There's only one road to the top, but it's been closed for at least 7 years now by the BLM. Closed to the public.
Created because of the fire.
I'm not sure why it was originally created. There is a wildlife catchment up on top. Yeah. But I just was up there on January 1st. It was a very mild day, unfortunately, and the mountain was totally dry. And we saw at least 300 elk in different clusters, either bedded down or grazing in the grassland up there. So it is very important. And Elu Romero, he's the largest landowner within the National Monument. He has a beautiful ranch that goes up part ways up on Cerro de la Hoya on the west side. And then we've got Floyd Archuleta, who has a ranch, Elkhorn Ranch, very close by, and Marty Torres has Laguna Elk Ranch. They're all very supportive of this. This is very near and dear to Mayor Esther Garcia. She unfortunately couldn't be here. She's sick today. And the Taos Pueblo War Chief Office feels that this is a very important. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but about 8 years ago, BLM fire crew was doing a prescribed burn, and they were doing a reconnaissance first, and one of their people came across 2 perfectly intact hand-coiled pots. They're on Pot Mountain with 2 stone knives that were at least 800 years old, and those were returned to Taos Pueblo. So it's been an area that mountain has been important for many generations of local people. And we'd like to ensure that it doesn't have any, mining in the future, industrial development on it.
I grew up hanging out in those areas. It's very near to my heart. Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Roberta, for putting this together. I think it's a great proposal. I'm really glad that you've got the major landowners on board in the Pueblo. And I assume you'll be bringing a resolution back to us. And I just wanted to let you know that I will support it. Obviously, if there was ever a need for access due to fire or emergency, that would be in place, like in all of these types of resolutions. So again, thank you very much for your work.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for being here. It's good to see Mr. Romero as well. Do we have any county roads traveling through this area?
Up to it.
up to it.
Up to the fence there at Chief Lowe's, I think is where we end our responsibility. There's that raised caliber and the fence that goes across here, and that's where our responsibility is. Correct, Ronald?
Actually, no, the road goes all the way out, comes out almost by the Perlite Mines.
So we didn't even have I thought it was BLM took care of it from Chief Lowe north.
They kind of do, but it's on our road maintenance list.
Right.
Up to the mile.
So it goes north of Chico?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in my district as well.
Yeah, all the way through. It's a long road. It's probably what we're at.
Yeah, it takes an hour and a half to 2 hours just to travel by road to get to Chico, so it is very remote.
Okay, you have my support as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Originally, when Mr. Olivas, and thank you for being here, Ms. Salazar, he mentioned Cerro de Utah, and I have no problem with that. But then all of a sudden, we're throwing in Cerro de la Ola, which is Pot Mountain, and I am concerned that it's going to cut off people's rights to get wood. If Rudy Pacheco, is that correct, our old planning and zoning guy, if he were here, he'd be opposed to this Pot Mountain. So I would like to check with the New Mexico Stockmen's Association to make sure they support Pot Mountain. Like I said, I have some questions about that, and I really prefer when anyone brings us resolutions, we have it for discussion, and then the next meeting we vote. I really do not like to see any resolutions unless we have a discussion first. That was based on a parliamentary recommendation by Senator Ivy DeSoto in a parliamentary procedure. So if that were possible, but the Pot Mountain, I'm going to have to check with Northern New Mexico Stockmen's Association and see their position on Pot Mountain. So I'm not persuaded on that. That just seems to be kind of thrown in at the last minute. Because I was asking several months ago about Cerro de Utah, and Mr. Oliva said, oh, it's not Pot Mountain. Pot Mountain's not part of it. It was like, oh, good. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing this. So just want to make sure everybody's on board.
Just so you know, this is being brought forward not by national or statewide conservation groups. They're not involved with this. This is brought forward by the local people. And we've got 2 land grant members who are present in this campaign, Mr. Eli Romero and Esther Garcia.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner O'Donnell, this is the discussion point. That's why we didn't bring it for decision today. We will bring the resolution at the next meeting for decision. And so, to me, this is the discussion point. It is introduced. And so I feel like this is our opportunity to discuss it and ask any questions. If there's any concerns, you can always let me know, and I'll go back to the individuals that introduced it. But to me, this is the opportunity for us to have discussion.
Okay, so how many people currently get wood out of Pot Mountain?
In terms of wood gathering, we have not, this wilderness boundary does not block any road access that's open right now for wood gathering. And there would be a buffer above all those roads. So it does not encroach on any of the wood gathering roads.
Those are all along the base and around.
Yes,
Maybe you could email us a map.
Certainly.
And elevation, maybe.
I know, okay, certainly. Okay. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. That was the point, was to introduce this. We did get the request from the group, and I thought it would be best if I introduced it at the manager's report so that they could come and speak about it and we could have the discussion. And if you feel we need further discussion, it will come back for a decision next meeting, and we can invite everyone back again if we need to. But I felt like this would be an opportunity for us to talk about it and see the will of the board and then bring it back. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would prefer that we have separate resolutions, one for Cerro de Utah, which I would support, and extract the other one in case it does need further discussion.
Well, right now, the only request we have is a resolution specific to Cerro de Hoya. So we don't have, as I understand it, it's not.
I mean, Cerro de Utah has 13,000, Pop Mountain has 6,000. So, excuse me, I mean the Cerro de Utah is one resolution. And who's writing the resolution?
The resolution came from the group. We certainly will give it over to legal for final review. But yeah, it was basically the wording of the group as they presented it. That's why we didn't take immediate action on it today, so that you guys could review it and give us any suggestions or concerns on the wording as well. And then it'll get over to legal and they'll get a final review.
Because it does just say Cerro de la Ola.
Yeah, this is specific to Cerro de Hoya.
And well, what about Cerro de Utah? Aren't you bringing that too?
I believe you've already approved the rest of the Cerro de Utah bill.
As I understand that was part of the monument already. This was not part of the monument, and that's what the request is of the group, the landowners and those that support it. This is coming independently of the other Utah. So we'll look into it further, but like it was mentioned a couple times, this isn't coming from any conservation group, it's not coming from anyone but the landowners and locals that do support the idea of adding this to the wilderness. So if you feel we need anyone else, Commissioner, at the next meeting to answer questions, let me know and I'll do my best to invite for further discussions. And that's all I have on this at this time. If there's no other questions, I'll get back to the agenda. Basically, before I get into the items on there, I have a few letters that I just want to talk about. I made copies of this for you guys. Chairman's handing it down right now. Basically, we received a letter from the Legislative Council Service. I just gave a copy to Mr. Audio this morning. It is giving us some information on the census project that could affect all the counties in New Mexico. It also can affect our redistricting. So it indicates that each of the commissioners and elected officials should be getting probably a letter similar to this or some other subsequent letter reaching out to you as individuals. So I just wanted to share this with you so you weren't completely caught off guard. And if you have any questions, contact me, let me know, and go further into that. I also attached to your packet a letter that we received from the non-metro New Mexico area on aging, basically indicating a on-site assessment that will be performed toward the end of the month, April 24th through 26th. The letter's there for your review, but they are requesting our board representative potentially to be at either the entrance or the exit conference of that, and I believe that's Commissioner Romero. So we'll talk offline if you need to, and we'll certainly invite you to that exit, or the entrance and exit for the audit that they're going to be performing so that you can be part of that process. We also received a letter from the New Mexico Finance Authority, which I didn't hand out, but it was simply a one-page letter indicating the approval of the loan restructure that happened last Thursday. So I just wanted to inform the board that they did approve the restructure of the debt. So we'll be able to move forward with that. They'll set the final debt service schedule probably this week and give us a closing date by the end of the week. I'll let the board know. Personnel policies, the next item we will be handing out, if it's not already on your couple red line versions of our personnel policy and our work rules. So I wanted to hand these out so that the board can take a look at them. Most of the red lines were just cleanup stuff. You'll see even in the table of contents, the red line kind of to point you to what has been affected. I'll go quickly through it. We did add court attendance pay, which is similar to our callback pay, but specific to court attendance, primarily for our sheriff's officers and for our detention officers if any of them need to be summoned to court. This allows for proper compensation of their time. And then we also made some changes around the leave section 8. We had a few typos. We had inadvertently had 2 personal days in there, which we took out one of them. So things like that. And then in the work rules, we did make a few changes, but the biggest one was to reinstitute the it's a buyback program for sick leave. Essentially, if an individual employee has not used a certain amount of their sick leave throughout the year, they are eligible to request a swap for annual leave based on their good attendance and their lack of sick leave usage. So we put that back into the manager's work rules. I do believe that should be rewarded. If you're not utilizing a lot of your sick leave throughout a year and you meet it's basically 24 hours or less, you can transfer 100%, 25 to 32 hours at 75%, or 33 to 40 hours used is 50%, and that's on the back page. So we'll bring these back. If there's no major concerns from the board, we'll bring them back on April 17th for adoption. If you have any concerns, feel free to contact me and we'll work through them. And if it's more involved, they may come back in May. But I just wanted to share with you, basically these red lines are from practical experience, things that we realized we had to adjust, and we won't be seeing another change in these until next December when we get to our year anniversary of these new resolutions or new policies. Also wanted to report to the board about the THS board meeting that occurred last Wednesday night. I did attend. I was able to attend the majority of the meeting. I was not invited into the executive session at this time, but one of the major topics, I was invited to the finance subcommittee, so I attended that. One of the major topics that came up that I thought would be of interest to the board was the idea of potentially creating a special hospital district. So Mr. Patton handed out to his board a quick handout of what it would take to create a special hospital district, what the benefits are, what the potential drawbacks are, but to kind of thumbnail version, it's a district that can either be in a single county or multiple counties. It would create a board of at-large or single-member districts. We would require 10% of the number that voted for the governor in the last election to be petitioned and be in support of it. And then we'd have to file with the county clerk to verify its petition, and then we would certify petition to the county commissioners. So I believe the goal was to try and see if they could get this special hospital district formed and then get a question back out to the voters more expeditiously than coming through the process with the county commission or waiting for a GRT or something along those lines. I did inform the hospital board that the new law regarding consolidation of elections would probably create a need for them to do this every November, and it may not expedite anything if they can only hold the election in Novembers. As a special district, they would have to do, if they wanted to do a special election, they would have to front the cost, and it could only be a mail-in election. So that was one point I raised that probably took a little bit of the wind out of the sails in terms of expediting their ability to go back to the voters. They also asked what I felt was the climate of the board. I said I cannot speak for the individual board members, but I believe that it's the same as it was. If it's up to you to put the question out to the voters, ultimately the voters still make the decision. So I reminded the board of that. It's still up to the voters to make any decision on any tax increase. So the will of their board was to further investigate this, ask some more questions of their attorney. I am going to work with Mr. Audio. He's done a little bit of research on our behalf as to how this could happen. It is legally possible, but it certainly is complicated to get done, and it may not expedite anything for the hospital's goals ultimately. So they also at the hospital board level are still working on getting us a board seat. So their bylaws subcommittee was going to look at a request by Mr. Peralta to allow us to have a board seat, and they're going to review that at their next meeting in April. So hopefully they'll vote and approve that, and by May we'll have our own board seat as a county representative. So that was the gist of the meeting. They are certainly going in the right direction financially. The last 3 months for the hospital have been much better. They have seen positive net profit over those last 3 months, and they have been able to start rebuilding their reserves. They do still have some debt outstanding, and they do have that back bill that they owe Medicaid that has quite a high interest rate that they're trying to work through. We also have received requests for capital purchases that I will go ahead and forward to the full board for your review, but they all do seem to be in line with what they had asked for. One was not in their list, but it is certainly an item that I think could fit the requirement. It's a medical gas dryer. Basically, they're about $16,000 each. They had 2 of them, both of them have failed at this point. They want to replace both of them, and they'll be asking for mill levy to see if they can replace those 2 medical gas drivers. They do seem to be pretty essential to the operation of the hospital, so I felt like that was one I'll go ahead and bring to you guys, but it does seem like it's in line with the overall capital purchases that they've been requesting all along. So that's a quick rundown of the hospital meeting. We'll likely invite Mr. Patton to our next meeting on the 17th to give an update to the commission as well. And then last thing I'll mention before I get into the items that were noticed, we do have a commission calendar with some dates on there that also include our budget dates. So we do hope to have a budget work study on May 8th to really go through the whole budget, do the interim budget, and just have final discussion before we bring the budget for preliminary approval on May 22nd. Both of these are not your normal meeting days, but May 22nd will basically be the earliest we could adopt the interim budget with good March numbers that have been verified by the Treasurer's Office. So, and we usually don't like to have meetings the day after a holiday, so the final Tuesday of the month would have been the day after Memorial Day. So,
Mr. Chairman, April 19th, the IGC meets as well. May 17th, the IGC meets as well. And then I'm assuming we're going to change the June 5th meeting date.
we had some discussion on that. We'll go ahead and next meeting we'll notice it properly and take action accordingly on that. But yes, both June meetings probably should be moved forward to also accommodate the NMAC conference.
And I will not be here on the May 1st meeting to let you know, so if you let Vice Chair Gallegos know. But I'm not available on May 1st.
So getting back to the agenda, I'm really trying to use the iPad this time, so I apologize for kind of jumping around. On that note, we have ordered all the iPads for the board. We hope to have those to you before the next commission meeting, but we're making sure that we have the WeGovern app on there for you guys all set up so that you can have all of your board documents on new iPads, more modern and with longer lasting battery power.
And our email also.
Yeah, email will also be set up as well so that you'll have better email communication. Moving on to item B, under County Manager's Report, Motorcycle Awareness Month. We did also get a request from an individual that went through the clerk's office. His name was Richard Sturgeon out of Los Alamos with a specific request for a proclamation naming May Motorcycle Awareness Month. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce this, and I'll go ahead and read the language as proposed by Mr. Sturgeon. But whereas motorcycles are used as a regular means of transportation for commuting, touring, and recreation in and around Taos, New Mexico, and whereas the Taos Scenic Roadways make motorcycling a very popular destination for riders from around the country, and whereas the safe operation of a motorcycle requires the use of acquired skills developed through a combination of training and experience, the use of good judgment and thorough knowledge of traffic laws and licensing requirements, and whereas it is imperative that the residents of Taos be aware, show consideration, and share the road with motorcycles on the streets and highways and recognize the importance of motorcycle safety, and whereas the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has declared May as Motorcycle Awareness Month. It is the desire of the County Commission to join NHTSA in raising awareness of the growing number of motorcycles on Taos County's roadways in order to help prevent accidents and most importantly save lives. So now therefore, on behalf of the Taos County Commission of Taos County, we do proclaim the month of May 2018 to be Motorcycle Awareness Month.
You support this as well, Sheriff? Thank you.
Absolutely.
I figured you did.
So I want to introduce this to the board as it did come from a third party. We will be bringing this forward as in proclamation form on the April 17th meeting for consideration and adoption, if that's the will of the board. The next item on the agenda, we already talked about the Cerro de la Hoya Wilderness. So item B is discussion and approval of a request for the NCRTD to provide transportation for Leadership New Mexico session June 6th through 8th. As you may remember, when we hosted the NMAC conference last summer, every county that is a participatory member of the NCRTD gets one event a year that we are able to use as sponsorship for whatever group is in town to move things around. Last year it was certainly the NMAC conference. We took advantage of that. We didn't have anything in the hopper this year. We did get a request through NCRTD for Leadership New Mexico. Leadership New Mexico is a group that out of Santa Fe, they do meet all over the state for their weekend leadership sessions, and so June 6th through 8th, they will be meeting here in Taos, and there was a request of that group if Taos County would sponsor them for shuttle service during those 2 or 3 days that they'll be here within Taos County. So I would like the board to give us approval, if you so approve this, so that we can go back to NCRTD and let them know that we are supportive of this request.
Need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Today is appropriate?
Yes,
Okay, move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the request from the NCRTD to provide transportation for Leadership New Mexico session from June 6th through 8th. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Chairman Favreau?
Yes. Thank you.
That's all I have at this time. I stop for any questions.
Mr. Chairman, no. I have, in looking at my schedule, I have the executive board meeting for the NMAC this Friday afternoon, and at the same time in Santa Fe, I also have the North Central New Mexico Board District meeting. I'm going to be going to the NMAC board meeting, so I was wondering if maybe Leandro or someone from the county could attend that particular meeting. North Central. I kind of feel that it's, considering what is going on, what we've been.
I have RTD on Friday.
Maybe let someone from the county attend with
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I'd be happy to attend. As the chairman mentioned, he'll be in Espanola that morning. I don't know if you'd be willing to potentially attend in Santa Fe that afternoon. We also are hosting Friday morning the Lano Regional Coalition here in our chambers from 9 to noon. So I'd be more than happy to attend on behalf of the county. I do agree with you, Commissioner Romero. Now is more important than ever to be attending these board meetings of the North Central Economic Development District. You may have seen some of the headlines over the last week or two. There was a special audit done of this entity. We've had issues in the past with AAA, which is under that umbrella, but now they're being scrutinized for a project that they had with federal funding. It was a ReadyNet project, sort of similar to what Kit Carson did on broadband, but it served the area of Espanola, Waukee Valley. That project seems to be coming up short on the funding they received from the federal government, so there's a lot of concern about operational integrity, I guess, over at the North Central Economic Development District. So I agree, it's probably very important that somebody from the county attend 2 years. Commissioner, if you'll send me the details of that, I'll definitely make sure when somebody attends. Thank you very much.
Okay. Commissioner Blankenhorn may be able to attend that. Because you'll be here with Lionel. Commissioner O'Donnell will be.
I just had some questions.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. Mr. County Manager, have you decided who you'll send to this opioid workshop in Las Vegas, New Mexico?
Commissioner O'Donnell, Ms. Tammy Jaramillo will be attending on behalf of the county.
Thank you. And then a couple other follow-ups, please. Are we required to do a redistricting regardless if there's no population increase? Is my question. Do you know? I couldn't glean it from this letter from LCS, but are we required to redistrict even though there's no population increase?
I do not know that answer, Commissioner. I'll have to look into that and I'll get back to you on that. We'll follow up. I was also a little confused by the letter. I wasn't sure if that is a requirement. So I will have to follow up and let you know.
Okay. And then would you please check into a few items related to the ag facility? Could you please find out why all those tires are being stored back there now that the new road is open? It's rather unsightly to see all those tires at the ag center. Also, could we please get an update on my request to find out the added cost to put showers at the ag facility. I asked about 6 months ago, and we have not heard back. I would also...
Mr. Chairman, would like to comment on that. We actually did re-engage Mr. David Henry to do the architectural work on that. That's almost complete, and so we'll have that number very soon. And then we'll have to make a decision at the board level if we're willing to fund that extra money that is required to complete the project. The changes have then now exceeded our budget that we had available, and so unfortunately the project we hoped to have done a couple years back has not been able to move until we did this, so it is going to add cost to the project, which we may or may not have available. We'll certainly have an answer pretty soon.
Add that in our excess cash balance, add to it. All right, thank you for that. And then, could you find out whatever's happened to the farmer sculpture? Was that Floyd Archuleta who donated that? What is that?
It was.
Could you find out, over a year ago, we were told it would be put here, hasn't been installed. Maybe we could just, if the board approves, just put it at the Ag Center. But I hate to lose that donation from Mr. Archuleta, since it's been a long time. I know it's a minor issue, but we were told here that it would be installed last year, and we haven't seen it, so.
And we are aware of that. It certainly, quite honestly, is one of those things that did fall through the cracks. We've had very many projects, so we've asked Mr. Sanchez to prioritize other projects and complete the big things, so it will get back on our list of to-dos. We also, Mr. Sanchez wasn't as involved with the arts and artifacts halfway through the year, so we need to probably talk to Mr. Figueroa about how they could maybe assist us in getting that done. So we'll get that back.
And the final thing is, at some point, could we get an update on how you're moving forward with the crusher for the free use road material yard near Dixon? When you're going to start crushing, what you've decided, you're going to rent one, you're going to buy one. I just hate to have that stall another year, because I know it's good weather, we could pull, over 10,000 tons of road material out of there. So I want to just make sure we do that.
Mr. Hunter has been working on that. He has had conversations with BLM.
Chairman, Commissioner McDonald, I did speak with Mr. Chavez 2 weeks ago. Where we got held up is in our procurement. So we do want to put out an invitation to bid for a screening plant. And part of the invitation to bid packet, Ms. Vigil wanted notice from BLM that we could screen 10,000 tons at one time. We were verbally told that by Mr. Chavez, that he told me, Mr. Pacheco, Mr. Lopez, that Mr. Chavez does remember telling us that he asked that we send him an email so he could pass up along with his chain of command so they can make the decision if we can pull 10,000 tons at one time. If not, then we'd have to go back to the 3,000. The year when we were on the phone with Mr. Chavez the other week didn't start till their biologist out of Farmington signed the notice. So we're approaching a year now. So it didn't start in December, January. So we're almost to the year time frame. And so he's just waiting for his chain of command to tell him if we can pull 10,000 yards at one time.
Okay, and then I've been told the crusher is more effective than a screening plant, that you get better material from a crushing plant. So can you maybe explain the difference between a screening plant and a crushing plant?
Thanks, O'Donnell. A crusher gets the rock into a cone and turns big rock into little rock, just crushes it. Screening plant is just a screen, you dump on it, and the smaller rock falls through, the bigger rock rolls off. Crusher, you're gonna need permits, a lot of permits, a lot of permitting for that. A screening plant, not so much. I've talked to Juan about that. about that area, that pit. The crusher would be in a perfect world, but the screening plant would probably be more efficient for us right now. We don't have the personnel to run a crusher, and to contract somebody out, very pricey. Screening plant, we could probably swing something, either contract out or lease a machine. But then again, we need a crew to run the machine.
The screening plant, though, isn't as efficient as a crusher. What kind of permits do you need?
It's pretty exciting. I remember when they opened the crusher north of town here.
Yeah.
It took months and months. There's airborne dust, there's the noise, there's the construction of it. I just remember being at a meeting, and hearing what they had to go through to get.
It's a process, air quality control permits, noise control permits.
Noise wouldn't be a problem.
MSHA permits. Somebody will complain. It's a given.
Well, not out there. There's nobody out there except coyotes. Okay, well, and then do you need to be certified to run a screening plant?
Yes, you have to be MSHA certified. You need somebody MSHA certified, plus your crew needs to be MSHA certified, plus you need the crew to run it.
Do you have the certification for the screening plant? Well, then we at least work on that.
No, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, that's why we're pursuing that invitation to bid route. As we really looked into this, we realized we weren't capable of doing that kind of task on our own, same kind of concept as the bridge. If we put all of our resources into it, we won't be servicing the rest of the county. So the invitation to bid is so that we can get a contractor in that is certified with everything, that has the equipment, so we don't have to purchase the equipment. And then that's why we're trying to see if we can pull all 10,000 at once. So that we hire this contractor, we bring him in, we get all the work done, and then we move out of the work site. It wouldn't be cost effective for the county to go through all the process to get everyone certified and to buy the equipment and all that. So that is why we're doing the invitation to bid. I think based on your concerns, we could put within the invitation to bid the idea of crusher versus screening plant and see what the cost difference might be, see if the contractor's capable of giving us the cost for both of those two options. So we'll go ahead and do that as we go forward.
And those would be contractors that would be certified in either or.
That's the goal, yeah, just to make sure we do it right and we do it by all the rules and regulations.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Thank you, Chairman. And ultimately, it's just going to depend on the cost of the material, right? I mean, we're going to be able to compare that, and it's not a sure thing yet that it's going to work out. But thank you for your work on it.
I'm sure it'll work out.
Well, it has to, what works out, what work out means is that the cost of the material will be less expensive with the plant than it would be for us to purchase. So,
You also have to take into account the quality of the material. The quality of the material at landfill isn't as good as this material. This is high-grade material, so I don't know how you factor that in.
These guys.
Better material.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 15 is Commissioner Reports and Matters. Item A is new business to be considered at a future meeting. We'll get a hold of Vice Chair Gallegos and see if he has anything for the next meeting or upcoming meetings. Commissioners, anything?
Just that we both attended the IGC meeting. It was very productive. We had a great turnout, and we're just looking at how it should be set up.
Right.
That was
been a big discussion for a
great
while.
turnout, yeah.
Good. So that was a good segue into item B. Any other announcements, commissioners? Item C would be, actually it should be worded discussion of resolution number 2018-3, a resolution reaffirming our code of ethics. You all have a copy in your packet of the resolution reaffirming it. I'd gladly read it if you would like, but this would be the first read on this, and it would be on the agenda for adoption unless you wish to do that at this time. We do have that option because of the way it was listed in the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, we can do it this time. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's not anything we have to.
Would you like to make a motion to adopt resolution? And then I would like to read it then into the record if you wrote with that. Okay, I'll read Taos County Resolution 2018-03. Resolution reaffirming a code of ethics. Whereas the Taos County Board of Commissioners adopted Code of Ethics on February 16, 2016, and each member of the current commission affirmed they would honor it by their signature. Whereas it has become necessary to reaffirm the Board of County Commissioners will honor Code of Ethics, will not interfere with the daily operations of county government. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners pledges not to violate the chain of command and will work through the county manager and deputy county manager. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners further affirm that they will act as a body and not as individuals, whereas each member of the commission pledges not to act on self-interest, but rather in the best interest of Taos County and not self-promote themselves on a personal agenda, whereas each member of the commission will respect the privilege of executive session and abide by the terms of all county agreements. Now therefore be it resolved that Taos County Board of Commissioners will reaffirm the Code of Ethics and will not interfere in daily operations of county government. And if a member violates this resolution under a code, they are subject to public censure. Now therefore be it resolved that, further resolved that Taos County Board of Commissioners approved and adopted this resolution on this day, 3rd day of April 2018.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve Taos County Resolution 2018-03, a resolution reaffirming our Code of Ethics. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jaramillo, for the work on that in the last, and this report about here is late. Thank you. Item 16 is Taos County Board of Commissioners may convene in closed session regarding county attorney. This matter may be discussed in closed session under Open Meetings Act Exemption 1015-1H2, allowing discussion of limited personnel matters. Mr. Audio, is it your recommendation to this board that we go into an executive session, and what staff would you like to remain with us?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair, and obviously Mr. Cordova and I can be here as necessary and then leave. If you...
Shannon here, or?
I don't think so.
Just here hanging around, so sneezing while we were talking. Okay, motion to go to executive session.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion is second. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Motion, commissioners, to come back into regular session.
So moved. Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Mr. Audio, would you give a report regarding the items discussed in closed session?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, pursuant to the exception in the Open Meetings Act to discuss personnel matters, there was a discussion held and no action taken by the Commission in regards to county attorney, and we complied with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act.
Motion to accept Mr. Audio's.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Next item 17 is adjournment. Pleasure of the commission.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you, Madam Clerk, and Valerie, Mr. Review.